Welcome back. I'm here today with Michael Gibbons. We're on the campus of Southern Virginia University. And Michael, welcome to today's show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So you have all sorts of hats that you wear here at the school, but by profession and education, your background is in child psychology?
It's in mental health, yes. My first degree was in developmental psychology. In graduate school, I studied psychiatric and clinical social work. So I'm a licensed mental health practitioner, yes.
And after school, what did you go out into private practice, or was it always in the academic?
Oh goodness, I've done a lot of different things. I've actually worked in community mental health, sort of the free clinic concept. I've done emergency room response. I've taught at junior colleges. I've worked in nursing homes. I've consulted in public schools. I directed a research grant in a 3-county area. Done a lot of different things.
And what eventually led you here to Southern Virginia University?
You know, interestingly enough, I wasn't looking for a job at all. I actually had a position that was ending because it was soft money. It was a grant-funded position. But with that same company, I had pretty much an assumed position, an administrative position that I would move into. Just read an article about this school in Virginia and thought, wow, that looks fun. And so I got online and looked it up and just clicked around and saw that there was this opening that seemed about right for me. So almost on a whim, I called them up and they said, well, come on out, let's talk.
Now the school here, you've been here for how many years?
I came in 2003.
Okay, so it's going on 12 years now. And then what is your role with the school?
My title is Director of Student Support, but mostly what I really do is mostly the mental and emotional well-being of the students. I get to teach a course in the Family and Child Development major. I'm involved with a freshman seminar style course, but we call it Becoming a Leader Servant, and all the freshmen take that. I'm involved with that course. I'm the faculty advisor for the Student Service Council. So I do a few different things on campus. Mm-hmm.
You know, as I'm here and learn more about the university, this Leader Servant, I want to focus a little bit on that. It's a freshman course?
Well, we try to get as many freshmen in it as we can. Our hope is that they'll take it early in their experience at SVU, because part of the idea is we want to inculcate the SVU value system and help them appreciate this is what we do as a school that makes us different. So the more students we can get in earlier, the better. It doesn't always work out that way, but that's the goal. We want them to have it their first year if possible.
What is the Leader Servant?
It's a phrase that was coined by Elder Maxwell, is my understanding, but certainly it's somebody that can use their skills that they have to provide leadership to people while serving others. I mean, maybe that's oversimplified, but I think it's exactly what it sounds like.
You know, it's interesting that the term Leader Servant was, you know, so oftentimes, I guess, in leadership, you think of the leader as everybody follow me, but that's not necessarily the case, is it?
No, not at all. It's more of a King Benjamin model. Yes, we need someone to follow. We need somebody to be in charge. But he's not just giving the orders. He's in the trenches doing the work as well. Mm-hmm.
And when you're working with the kids, how many kids are in the class again?
Total, maybe 200 are registered this semester, but that's done in 6 different sections. And so part of it, we get the whole group together for some larger experiences, some forums, some devotionals, what we actually call the Leadership Lecture Series. And then also one time a week, they'll divide up into the smaller groups, maybe 30 to a section. And then we'll have different instructors or leaders rotating through and leading a smaller group discussion. So that all of those are part of that class.
How do you instill into each individual life of the students that, you know, that the pathway that they choose is of their own making, and to have them act autonomously with the gifts that they've been instilled with?
I think it's kind of the conversation we were having before we turned the cameras on, really. We want them to find their own passion. We want them to find, this is what I believe in, this is what excites me, and then realize that as they develop that, then if it's something that brings them happiness and fulfillment, then they will be successful. I'm teaching another course right now on campus where the whole premise of the course is, we believe I'll be happy when I succeed this, when I graduate, or when I get married, or whatever it be. There's always some future thing that's going to somehow bring us happiness, when just the opposite is true. Happy people are successful people. We pursue our passions, and we want that to include leadership and service, and realize that as we pursue those passions and things that we enjoy, then we will be successful.
That's so well said. And I think that getting kids to understand that early in life will help them as they go through their own set of trials and
Well, and I think so many of them
challenges.
come with, they come with this preconceived notion of this is just a hoop I have to jump through, but what's next is what really matters. When in reality, it's the journey now. Enjoy the journey. It's not the destination. You're missing out on today if we're just waiting for what will I get to do when I graduate. There's too much to enjoy now to have that attitude.
I'm visiting here today with Michael Gibbons. He of one on the campus of Southern Virginia University. I want to. We have to take a quick break,
Okay.
But when we come back, I want to dive into how you help students deal with conflict and crisis in the midst of their schooling.
Okay.
We'll be right back after these messages.
I love fishing, with my family.
I think it would be easier to use a net.
It was so much fun.
The times when we are together, it makes it all the more worth it.
Having Dad teach them how to cast a fly rod, and
As long as we're doing stuff together, we're having fun.
Some people see a father and a son fishing together, while others see a succession plan.
Welcome back. I'm visiting here today with Michael Gibbons on the campus of Southern Virginia University. And in the first segment, we touched on this about, happiness is, basically it's still within the state of mind of an individual. And as we figure that out and move forward, we're able to have that much quicker. What happens though? These kids today, everyone comes from diverse backgrounds and family situations, and some have mental health issues where...
Well, absolutely, and I think it's important to distinguish that because
Yeah.
we can't just think that because we're doing all the right things, somehow we're going to be depression-free, because depression is still an illness, and it still happens sometimes in spite of our best efforts. So I guess a lot of what we've been talking about so far, I would say, barring an actual disorder, then these kinds of things that we're talking about are very important. But we have to acknowledge that there are also just mental health issues that are very real that we have to deal with.
You have the opportunity on campus, and this is all in confidence, with kids coming to you and saying, I need you to help me with coping skills. How do you work with an individual who is struggling?
First and foremost, this is a university. It's not a treatment center. And so we have to have the students appreciate that if you can't succeed as a student, if you can't get to class and can't pass your courses, then this really is not the place for you right now. Okay? So that has to be the foundation. And if they're able to do that, then beyond that, well, then how can we help you? We have, like any other population, we're not immune from these things. We have eating disorders. We have depression and anxiety. We have, full-scale mental illnesses. We've had students with schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. And so, like any other population, these disorders exist, and we just have to deal with them as they come up and do the best we can to find the resources that can help them and do what I can to help.
What percentage of kids go through these anxiety or mental health disorders? And
Well, nationwide, it's actually considered a crisis on college campuses. If you were to just Google that term, you would see it's a mental health crisis on college campuses. Right now, the spring 2014 National College Health Assessment, 33% of all students report feeling so depressed within the last 12 months it was difficult to function. 1/3 of them, okay? Well, what's going on there? In the 1980s, that number was only 10 to 15%. So we do have to just ask the question, what's going on in society that is happening? And there are a lot of different theories out there. I think social media is contributing to it. We can't blame social media, but certainly that's making our lives so much more public that it's adding some anxiety. There are theories around everything from diet to, just what is happening in our world today that's creating that. But clearly it's a problem here on campus. I probably see upward close to 200 different students over the course of a calendar year. We'll have anywhere between 160 and 200 students that actually come to the office. That's on a campus with maybe 700 plus students, 800 students almost at times. So that's a good proportion.
it must be comforting for the students to know that they're not that that they're amidst company.
Well, and we really need to do a better job of that as a society, not just at college, but in general. We have to destigmatize that. If somebody has a broken arm, then they wear a cast, and we see, okay, there's a problem here, and they'll heal. But we don't really see that when there's a mental or an emotional problem. People are able to try to hide that if they choose to. I remember the words to a hymn that I love. In the quiet heart is hidden sorrow that the eye can't see. And so when we see this group of people, we don't necessarily know that 1 out of 4 of them or 1 out of 3 of them might be having this very real private struggle.
I've been visiting here today with Michael Gibbons on the campus of Southern Virginia University. When we come back, I want to talk about how you guide an individual through coping skills.
Okay.
We'll be right back after these messages. Since you can't take your wealth with you, spend time with your family. Welcome back. I'm here today with Michael Gibbons on the campus of Southern Virginia University, and he is a teacher. He's a teacher and also a counselor.
Mostly a counselor, but I do get to teach, and I really enjoy that.
Okay, so now I want to jump into the counseling side for this segment. A student comes, they're having difficulty with anxiety or some type of a coping skill. Are there exercises or a methodology that you run them through to help them work through these issues?
Yeah, there really are. I mean, there's a basic mental health assessment where I'm going to go through the background and find out, there are genetic predispositions that we have to consider. Certainly many of these things are biological in basis, and we have to rule those out. Is medication something that we've tried, and how's it working? But beyond that, what can we actually do here without a psychiatrist on campus? The first thing I do is, again, I remember that this is an educational institution. First and foremost, they have to be able to succeed as a student. We're not just a treatment center here, okay? That's ancillary to why they are here. And so, first thing I want to know is how are they doing in their courses? Are they passing, okay? But then the basics that I get to on what can you do, and again, this would also, we need to at least insert, barring a major disorder, what can you do? And I just go back to the standard 3 things that I just preach over and over, and that's just diet, sleep, and exercise. And so many college freshmen don't really have that foundation. I often joke that if I could cast a magical spell across this campus, that would be the single intervention that would elevate the emotional well-being across the board, what would be the one intervention I would choose? And it would be everybody fall asleep in their own bed by midnight. They don't appreciate what they're doing to themselves so often with the sleep deprivation. I'll have students show up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon in my office in tears. And, they're having this crisis, and they just don't know if they can do this. And after hearing them out for a minute, it's, okay, what time did you go to bed last night? And what have you eaten today? Have you had breakfast? And we find out they've been up most of the night. They haven't had anything to eat yet. How often do you get any regular aerobic exercise and take care of yourself that way? And often it's a matter of, okay, after you get some food in you and a good night's rest, then let's talk. Because so much of that crisis might just pass as you do some very basic self-care things, okay? So, but beyond that, of course, there are real mental health issues that we have to certainly deal with, but there are just those basic things that they can do.
I think it's so well put, though, that would you agree that as a student goes through life, they may not necessarily have a mental health disorder that requires medication, but from time to time, the majority of kids will face that crisis because of not understanding how to approach difficult situations.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And it's important that we distinguish the two. Depression is a genetic condition that can be very biological in nature, but there's also just self-care, just things you can do that you can take better care of yourself and be better prepared to handle those different vicissitudes and things that are thrown at you in life.
When you're, I'm going to jump back now from the counselor side of you to the leader servant, because I think that I think one of the comments that you made in an earlier segment is that of happiness. How does a person find their happiness, their pathway to happiness?
I think much of what I teach in that particular course, we actually have some research, and certainly what we're doing is scientific based, and there's research to support it. But it's the idea of finding out what your values are and living according to those values. There are certain character strengths, certain values, things that you hold dear. If you have your life centered around those are the things that I believe in, and you're acting accordingly and living accordingly, those are the things that bring happiness. And so as we find out this is what's important to me, this is what matters, this is my passion, as we find out what do I value, what matters to me, as I find a way to actually even maybe pursue a career in that direction. If not a career, certainly an avocation or something to keep me busy in those things that are important to me, that just, it breeds happiness.
You threw out a statistic earlier that 30 years ago was 10 to 15% of the kids on campus were in some type of mental health crisis, and today is a third. And there was some attribution to social media.
I think that, in all fairness, the research is still being done on that. It's still very new. But just the whole phenomenon of your life is so public. That wasn't there when you and I were kids. You can be famous with a click of a button. And sadly, though it's going to sound like I'm being very condescending to today's college student, but just the narcissism levels are not what they used to be. I mean, we have this instant gratification, instant fame, opportunity and possibility that is just changing the emotional landscape for people. And I guess we still have to see exactly what the implications are, but certainly it's being researched. And it's not fair at all to blame social media, but it's one of the newer things that at least is being looked at, yes.
It's said that the millennials from an early age only knew having cell phones or texting at a very early age. But how does the social media play in on social skills? Are people being removed from relationships?
Absolutely, that's a very big one right there. Is what is the definition of an actual relationship? Not online friends, and real communication, face to face, not just tweeting some acronyms, but actually having relationships. There are no happy hermits. There's really just no such thing as I'm alone in life and that's okay. We have to be part of a community, and we have to have people. And sometimes we can use technology to isolate ourselves from others. And clearly that's not in our best interest.
I love the saying, there are no happy hermits. First time I've heard it. Maybe you ought to do a book on that.
Maybe.
So I'm visiting here today with Dr. Gibbons. Is it?
Actually, no. I have a clinical master's license, but not a doctor.
Okay, Michael Gibbons here on Southern Virginia University. If a person wants to find more about the Leader Servant Program, is there some type of resources that are online, or?
It's certainly there online. We actually even have an award for a student who wants to actually graduate with a Leader Servant distinction, and those criteria are online as well. Those criteria you can look up and see that if you give so many hours of service and sort of document it almost like a resume, and then we have a senior capstone project where you actually organize and orchestrate some sort of a service project, and you actually graduate with that Leader Servant distinction. Yeah, it's all there on the website.
Michael, thanks for being on today's show.
Thank you.
We'll be right back after these messages.